Welcome to Not Your Average Cruise Channel, where the ordinary ends and the ocean begins. I'm Shauna, this is my wife Juanita, and after years of dreaming, planning, and wondering what if, we decided to do something a little crazy. We're selling our home, downsizing our lives, and trading square footage for the open seas. That's right, soon we'll be cruising full time. These pictures are the beginning of our story, the before moments, the foundation of the journey, and we're building from the ground up. From packing up memories to chasing new horizons to learning what it really takes to make the ocean our home. And we want you right here with us every step, every wave, every adventure. So subscribe, hop aboard, and join us as we turn a wild dream into an everyday reality. Welcome to the cruise, and welcome to Not Your Average Cruise Channel. Hello, fellow cruisers. This is Sean and my wife Juanita, Not Your Average Cruise Channel. And today we want to talk about tips. Not getting tipsy, but tipping.
hmm
Not tipping over,
No. And
tipping.
for people, if you were like us the very first time we cruised, we didn't know much about tipping. We didn't quite understand it because typically you may tip at a restaurant, tip your hairdresser. So we didn't quite understand how it works. So we want to just kind of give you a really quick overview of tipping on a cruise ship.
Right. And so part of that happened because I know for me personally, I didn't understand the whole what if and why and who's getting what and why are we giving so much money? You paid for the cruise. Why are you giving so much more money until you actually take your first cruise and then you start cruising quite a bit and you realize there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes as well. So there's a lot of information around tipping, and I know there's a lot of opinions out there as well. We're hoping that we can shed some light on that today.
Yeah. So let's just talk about cruising in general. First of all, most cruise ships give you the option to prepay. And so they will let you know, hey, based on your cruise, how long it is, your tips may be this much per person. And that price can vary from cruise line and it can also vary based on the length of your cruise. So a 10-day cruise, that per day tip is going to be quite a bit more, or your tip overall may be quite a bit more than just a 4 or 5 day cruise. So that's the first thing. Second thing
Yeah,
is,
well, because of gratuities, because
mhm,
they're going to tell you if it's $18 a day and they want and it's a 5 day cruise, they're going to tell you it's $90. But if you have a 10-day cruise, then you need to multiply that out. And
mhm,
that's where the cruise line is getting that number from when they tell you your gratuities or such and such. And then there are different deals throughout the year. So also pay attention when they say that gratuities included or
mhm.
they're in some way rolling gratuities into the cost of the cruise so that you don't actually see it, but it's being paid.
And so for those cruise lines that have it a prepay, they do give you the option if you want to remove those. If you say, hey, I don't want to pay them ahead of time, I want to take them off. And maybe you can pay them at the end or do some different options. So that's another option. And
Which I never
each,
really thought.
yeah.
Like why? Like if you're gonna pay them, if you're gonna pay the prepay at the end, why not just pay at the beginning?
Well,
But
some people, I don't know, but some people do it differently. And you also can sometimes, if you do some searching around on different cruise ship websites, you will find out how they distribute those tips because it does not go to everyone. The captain is not getting a tip. So you want to look and see if you can do some research because different cruise ships do it differently. But generally, the tips go to the service groups and they
yes,
do a lot of work on that cruise ship, a
yeah,
lot.
we're gonna talk about that in just a
Mhm.
minute. There's a lot of behind the scenes work that we talk about.
And you might want to say, so why are we tipping? Because no cruise is cheap. So why are we tipping? One thing I was shocked by, a friend of mine worked on a cruise ship, and she said a lot of the people that work in the service part of the ship are on these ships for 8 to 10 months at a time. That's not everyone, but the service people. Those are the room attendants, the people who work in the dining room, anyone that you see cleaning. A lot of those people are on the ships 8 to 10 months at a time. And that's quite a long time. And if you can imagine, they aren't necessarily making tons of money. So these tips go to help a little bit just to kind of supplement their income. But one thing I think we were both so shocked about on our first cruise was our room attendant. How I think after the first meeting, he knew our name.
Right.
Every
Yeah.
single time he saw us, he called us by first name. That was
Yeah.
amazing.
Right. And I tell you, and I've been in education for almost 30 years, and no, I'm not remembering anybody's name, even after all that time. And I can tell you, after the first meeting, they know your name. Um,
Mhm.
but you said something interesting. You talked about the people that you see cleaning. I do want to highlight that exceptional service really comes from not just the people that you see, it's those you don't see. You know,
Mhm.
if you watch, I'm gonna tell you, there's a show. I know we're always pushing different shows and ideas on our cruise channel, but when you think about if you've ever watched Mighty Cruise Ships or Mighty Ships, look at a couple of those episodes that focus on the cruise ships because the amount of people who are working in the laundry rooms and
Mhm.
how much they're washing each and every day. I, when I say exceptional service, the fact that we get clean towels, sheets, everything's clean every single day, and you don't, that's not something you really have to think about. That's exceptional service. And think about the number of napkins that they're cleaning. I think
Mhm.
on one episode, the gentleman said like they're washing and folding 300,000 items a day. It's just outrageous the number of things that they're doing on these mega ships. And not just
Mhm.
mega, even the small ships have to have a laundry department. Those are people we don't think about.
Yeah, and you think of when you have a meal, there is a gentleman who takes your order or the lady who takes your order and brings your food out, but there are also the people in the back who are cooking, who are not just cooking, but they're preparing the meal, they're plating it. The service on a cruise ship is just to me exceptional. The
Right.
customer service, the way they greet you. We've been on cruises where we've asked for different things from our room attendant, and I mean, it's there quickly. I would say it does not at all. A hotel customer service does not at all compare to a cruise ship.
No,
So,
not at all.
so that's why people tip. Just to kind of go over that to supplement income, great customer service, and just to show appreciation. But there are different opinions about tipping.
There are different opinions. You know, some people say that it's not their job to be responsible for paying those workers in the service
Hmm.
industry. If they're cruise fare, the cruise line should be doing that. And so certainly, you know, that's one opinion to have. But I would also tell you, you know, when you think about it, when you go to a restaurant, even on land, we go to our restaurants and we eat, we tip the waiter or waitress, and certainly the that restaurant should be paying their wages for the day, but we still tip them. And so I would push back and say, even with that difference of opinion, when you get great service, part of what you would like to do is show your appreciation.
Yeah. And for some of those people, they will opt to not prepay through the cruise. They opt not to have the cruise take that, charge them for that. And what they will do is just get on board with cash and personally tip. If they go to the bar, they personally tip the bartender. If they have a nice meal, they personally tip the person waiting on them in the dining room. They may personally tip their room attendant. But and we're not here necessarily to give our opinion or say which way is right or wrong, just to give you the different options. But if you do that option, just know that the people working behind the scenes are not getting any tip from you. And so for some people that they're okay with that. They are okay with simply tipping the people they see who perform over and beyond their expectation. So that's one.
Yep.
Another opinion is the people who just prepay. They do the tip that the cruise line charges, and that is it.
I think
They
I was
do.
on that boat. That was I can say I sailed that ship at first. By the end of my very first cruise, my
Hmm.
mind had changed, but I think I
Uh-huh.
was there too. Like, okay, so Carnival saying pay $92 less per person. We're gonna pay $92 per person, then we're gonna move on.
Yeah.
Uh,
And
and
if you have never cruised, you probably would think, and it does sound like a lot of tip. $92 tipping sounds like a lot of money. But, and for people who do that, what they enjoy about that option, the pros to that is they're not carrying any extra cash. They're done. When they
Mhm.
get on the board, when they get on board, they've already tipped, they're done. They're not carrying any singles and tens and fives with them. They're done. Now, of course, the downside to doing that way is if you do find exceptional service and if you have not prepared, you don't have any way to show that appreciation. So that's just something to think about.
There's something to think about.
Yeah, if you
I
felt
could
like
say just
somebody
thank you.
went over, if someone went over and beyond, you can't do anything. Now, of course, the third option are the people who do both. They allow the cruise ship
Hmm.
to charge them for that tip, for those gratuities, but they also carry cash on board, and they plan this. They bring cash on board, and before they leave that boat, they have a nice envelope for the room attendant. They may have a nice envelope to give the person that waited on them in the dining room because you typically will have the same person. They may have a nice tip waiting for the bartender. They may have tips for anyone they come in contact with quite often. So that's the third option. I think the pro to that is if you're someone who enjoys showing your appreciation for good service, you have it. The con to that is kind of obvious. It can add a considerable
Right.
cost to your
Right.
cruise.
But I will say you can budget for it,
Mm-hmm.
right? You would want to budget for that, and I would tell you before we even leave our house for a cruise, we've already decided if the room attendant is great, this is how much we're tipping, and we can count. And of course, if you have kids, and
Mm.
we have two boys that cruise with us frequently, yeah, that the room attendant is going to earn every bit of that salary plus tip
Yeah.
and whatever the viewers, you watching the video, can tip that room attendant because our boys, yeah, there's some challenging cabins on a ship when they're on it. So we do plan for that, and so we budget for that, and we know we're going to do that. And we also recently come around to the idea that the service we get in the main dining hall is just
Mm.
exceptional as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we think about each one, and we've started keeping the cards and looking back at them, and we can remember who served us and who took care of us on this particular that particular
Mm-hmm.
cruise. That level of service needs to be rewarded.
Yeah. And one thing he kind of said, and I don't think this can be stressed enough, if you are going on a cruise, you're budgeting the cost of the cruise, the cost of the excursions, if you're having to fly there, if you're having to
Mhm.
drive, if you're having to get a hotel the night before, please don't forget to budget for the tipping and gratuities. And we didn't even mention if you go on an excursion, they very typically are
Yeah.
customarily tipped. So budget that. Don't overlook that because it can be a significant
Yeah, I know we talked a
um,
lot about the
addition.
ship, but
Mm-hmm.
we yeah, you don't want to forget about the excursion because
Mm-hmm.
they have tip boxes all over the
Mm-hmm.
place. They want to show great service, and then they want or many people do
Mm-hmm.
tip as well. That's why they have those boxes all over for
Yeah.
the great service that they're giving. And so, if when you're budgeting, add an amount for each excursion experience that you go on.
And
Just
even
expect a tip.
within the excursion, the last excursion we went on, we did a horseback ride. And when the ride was over, we tipped the gentleman who led the ride. On that same excursion, we did
Snorkeling.
snorkeling.
Hmm.
The gentleman who did snorkeling, we tipped them as well. So that's just an example. And we did not necessarily think about that ahead of time because we
No.
kind of assumed it would be one person doing that whole excursion or one group, but it was two separate groups. And then we had something to eat on that same excursion and we tipped the lady who helped us. So just think about that. We are not here to say that you must and you have to tip every single person. But if you are someone who believes in showing your appreciation for great service, just be prepared to budget for that.
And preparation is good. I would also, in moderation, if we're not careful, you tip more than the price of the
Yeah,
cruise fare. So, but
you don't want to
th-
do that.
that's what the question is always: to tip or not to tip. There are some tipping essentials, and hopefully you
Hmm.
got that from our video today, because that's one of the things. There's some areas we believe very strongly you need to tip, but like I said, there's a lot of different opinions on it. I would say this: if we had one reason why we tip, why do you think we tip?
I think for one, to show appreciation, and because some of those, especially those that work in the service side,
Mm-hmm.
they don't make a lot of money. We've met people on the cruise ship who work, and they have 4 or 5 children.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can imagine that each of them are gone 9 or 10 months out of the year, some of them, they saw their wife when she was pregnant. The next time they saw that child, they were walking. So that's a big part of it, knowing that these people work very, very hard to provide for their families and people back home in the different countries. So that's the reason I tip.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this: don't let tipping draw you away from cruising, because here on Not Your Average Cruise Channel, we strongly believe that life is short.
So cruise more.